One of my early memories, I used to watch Action News when I was a kid. We used to that was pretty much what we watched during dinner time. And at
Mhm.
one point in time during the show, they take a wide shot of the studio, and the floor director of the show accidentally steps in front of the camera.
I said this time and time again. The internet has a great way of bringing like-minded folks together. Today's episode, I welcome in a good brother who's been on the wrestling talk show with me, and I've been on his sports talk show. But I wanted to bring him on so he could share his story because even though he is from Philly, born and raised, and that's where he works, he spent quite a bit of time in Baltimore. He's a Morgan State grad, and then he also worked at one of our local TV stations during a crucial time where the Ravens came to town as well as when they won the Super Bowl. And that is the good brother, Jonathan L. Brown. Jonathan is somebody who I really enjoy his passion for Morgan State. Most importantly, his passion of being a father. And I also enjoy the fact that he has an online internet music station and he plays some of the best songs that I enjoy. And as I noted in this show, it got me through a lot of days at work. So ladies and gentlemen, here is my conversation with my brother, Jonathan L. Brown. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as promised, I have a good friend of mine, one of my OGs in the game, the good brother from Philly, but he is a Morgan State grad, the
Yes,
one and
right.
only
The
Mr.
national
Yeah,
treasure.
you already know. You
You
already
already know
know.
about the national treasure. Hashtag bear pride.
Bear pride
Ha-
all day.
Hashtag bear down. Hashtag I'm so glad. Hashtag orange and blue through and through.
There you go.
Even though I'm wearing a Temple hoodie today because I love Temple still.
It's
I'm
all
a,
good. It's all
I
good.
love
Ladies
Morgan
and
State.
gentlemen, welcome Jonathan L. Brown to Break It
What's
Through
good, man?
Glass Ceilings.
I'm so excited I unplugged my headphones. That's how
Oh
hype I
man.
am to be on this show.
Oh man, I appreciate it. How you doing?
I am good, man. Let me tell you something. This is an honor, bro.
Oh,
I've
for
been
real?
watching you do your. It is, man. I've been watching you do your thing, and it's like low key. I've been waiting for my opportunity to get on this show. I've
Oh
seen.
man.
It's like I've watched because you've had some good guests and you've done a lot of good shows, and I know
Thank
you've
you.
done like how many episodes of this have you done now? It's
This is
like I think
101
one.
plus the uncomfortable conversation. So
So
it's a lot.
I am guest number 101. I will take that.
Yeah, 101, man.
I will accept that. I am honored.
Nah, it's an honor to have you on here, bro.
Appreciate you, man.
Shout out to our good sister Renee, who created the Journalists on the Rise group, bringing a
Yes,
lot of great
yes.
people together. I want to, before we get into the show, just publicly thank you for all your support and everything I've done from when I was creating content for Johns Hopkins, and man, even then I have to give you your props too, because brother, you got me through some mornings, just with the music.
Nah.
You got me. I'll be sitting there at the desk editing the show In Case You Missed It. I used to produce, and yeah, you got me through some of them days.
I
Some of
appreciate that, man.
yes, some of the crisis that was going on at the hospital, or within the university. So I definitely appreciate you.
Glad to hear that, man. Glad to hear it, man. It is good to know sometimes it is well, I shouldn't even say sometimes. It's always good to know
Mm-hmm.
that, your work is not in vain, that there's somebody feeling what you're doing. You wanna keep persevering. People will say it all the time, keep persevering no matter what. But sometimes, as much as they say, you want to give people their flowers while they're still here, it's also good to smell them sometimes too. Take
Absolutely.
back, it's good to know that your work is appreciated. It's good to know that you out here touching some folks.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But man, before we get started, how you feeling? How's everything been going for you?
I am good. I'm a Philadelphia native, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm the football team that I cheer for has a big game coming up. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
Um, that's a good thing. My health is good. Got got a bunch of podcasts out here. I'm just out here working, out here grinding. You talked about the music. PhillyGoFlow.com is still, still putting out good music, still, providing a service for people. So I'm in a good place, man. I'm in a real
Yeah,
good place.
absolutely, absolutely. We're recording this before the Super Bowl, so I'll just say that I'm gonna put this on record that I hope the Eagles win.
Thank
Uh,
you. I appreciate that too.
yeah, yeah. Pat Mahomes, Patrick, as his mother would say, he got his
Hmm.
Super Bowl. It's
Yes,
cool. As somebody who don't have a dog in the fight, I like to see Jalen Hurts get his, especially
exactly.
considering all the doubters that he had. People always finding something. So I like to
Hmm.
see him get his. But this is you going for number two with two within 5, 6, 7 years.
Yes, and when you think about the fact that it's two within 5 years
Hmm.
after going pretty much my entire life with zero. You talk about not having a dog in the fight. I've consistently not had a dog in this fight pretty much my whole life.
Hmm.
So I know where you've been. I understand that seat. Uh, it sometimes can get a little frustrating watch two teams that aren't yours
Yeah.
play for a championship, but still, I'm happy to be here. Hopefully, right now, it's before the Super Bowl. When people watch this and people hear this podcast, you should know exactly how I feel at the time by the result.
Right.
If the Eagles win the Super Bowl, trust me, I am very happy right now. If they lost, if you see me on the street, don't talk to me. Just leave me alone. Just let me be. I gotta process this.
Yeah, well, I tell you this, man. You talk about not having a dog in the fight. It's easier when you know your team don't have a chance.
Hmm.
I said the year the Ravens lost to the Titans,
Hmm.
and the time they lost to the Patriots and the Steelers, and those championship games, those hurt. But when
Hmm.
you and obviously, well, I I don't know what it's like to lose a Super Bowl as a Ravens fan, but what I
Hmm.
can say is that Eagles team y'all had in '04. That
Yeah.
was my squad. See, T.O. is my favorite wide receiver of all time. I
Uh-huh.
know
Okay.
some people
Hmm.
feel certain ways about him. And at the time, Donovan was my favorite quarterback. So I
Mm.
was heavy into the Eagles. I actually had the hat
Hmm.
and I lost it. But I was heavy into the Eagles. So that was probably, if I'm looking back, yeah, that was probably the first time I experienced a Super Bowl heartbreak
Oh boy.
because
Oh,
that was the one I really wanted.
now, I will tell you, probably the most heartbreaking as far as football wasn't necessarily the Super Bowl. Losing the Super Bowl because it was Tom Brady.
Mm.
You were excited, you hoped to win, but in the back of your mind, you knew it was Tom Brady. So you knew
Really?
there was you knew there was a chance. But
Uh
I will
huh.
say a couple years before that, before they got to that point, the Eagles lost in the NFC Championship game to the Tampa Bay Bucks, and that
Oh,
was
yeah.
probably the most soul crushing loss of my sporting life. That
Hmm.
Super Bowl that Super Bowl between Tampa Bay and Oakland
Yeah.
remains the only Super Bowl of my lifetime that I did not watch. I could
Oh,
not bring
wow.
myself to watch it. I was so heartbroken because I just felt like that was our year, that was our opportunity. If you remember
Mhm.
the game started out fast. I think the Eagles jumped out to an early lead, and I just knew it. We were going to go to the Super Bowl. It was going to happen, and then Tampa Bay happened, and I was like, you know what, man, football is dumb. I don't want to watch
Yeah.
this anymore. It's funny, but I will tell you this.
Mhm.
You talk about Ravens championships. I was living in Baltimore. I was still in Baltimore when the Ravens won their first championship in 2001. And they just had that ESPN special about the
Yep.
bullies of Baltimore. And I always tell people in Philly that 2001 Ravens team was probably as likable a team as I've ever seen. That's probably the most likable non-Philly team I've ever come across. Just personalities that you like, Ray Lewis and Peter Bolaware, Mike McCrary, Goose, late great Goose,
Yeah.
Shannon Sharp, Rod Woodson. Look, that was just a likable team, and I liked watching them. I enjoyed watching them. You know, that was back, prime Ray Lewis. When Ray Lewis started speaking, you go to a wall for Ray. Ray
Mhm.
started talking and started getting, it wouldn't matter. Everything Ray said seemed like it was a sermon.
Yeah,
You
how
know,
about that?
everything he said seemed like a sermon. I just loved watching it. So when they won that Super Bowl, I was happy for Baltimore. I was
Yeah.
like, I'm driving back to my apartment. I'm driving down Cold Spring Lane,
Wow.
and I'm on the corner of Cold Spring and York, and there were people out there in the corner just banging pots and pans,
Mhm.
celebrating the Ravens. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I need to feel this for myself. I need
Mm.
my team. I want to feel. I want to know what this is like. This is great. I need to feel this.
That's how I
Now,
feel
granted,
about the
it.
Orioles.
Yeah.
I just want one. I
You
just
just
want one.
want. I understand. I
Yeah.
understand.
So, yeah, when did you decide that you wanted to get into, video and audio and production and radio?
Um, Honestly, like at a very early age, we were TV watchers in our house. We were news watchers, and it was always a dream of my brother and I. It was something that we both wanted to do. We used to, have a little, uh, have a tape recorder. We'd make little radio shows of our own, and I used to always say, one of my early memories. I used to watch Action News when I was a kid. We used to that was pretty much what we watched during dinner time. And at
Mhm.
one point in time during the show, they take a wide shot of the studio, and the floor director of the show accidentally steps in front of the camera. He didn't realize it. He steps in front of the camera. He looks up. He realizes he's on camera, and he runs out the shot real quick. But I thought it was so cool. I thought his headset was cool. I thought, what he was doing. He had his rundown, and I remember, like, I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. And I used to think to myself, I wanted to do that.
Mhm.
And honestly, since I was a kid, this was my brother and I. We had always talked about doing this. This is something we always wanted to do. um, my brother's he's 3 years younger than me, but we both followed our dreams. I was able to, start my television career in TV in TV production. He also was able to start his career. Now my brother's in Raleigh now. He's an anchor at the ABC affiliate in Raleigh. So here we are now, 20 something years later, both paying bills with TV money. So
Now, how about
it's always been a dream.
that's amazing, man, and, it's I'm so happy you got a chance to tell that story.
Hmm.
We hear a lot about, overcoming or falling into it, but it's very rare you hear somebody your interest peaked off of a mistake. Let's call it for what
Hmm.
it is, and the fact is too, um, for you and your brother to both be doing this, that's a
Hmm.
blessing, and I know, your
Yep.
parents was proud.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
N now
Parents are
oh, go ahead.
proud. And honestly, it was just always something that interested us.
Mhm,
Interested us. Just from, like I said, used to make little radio shows and things. And our high school, the high school that we graduated from, North Penn High School in Lansdale, PA, they had a TV production course. They had a their own cable channel, and they provided a TV production course. We both got in the course as early as we could during our high school sophomore years.
mhm.
Stayed in the program till we graduated. I went to Morgan State. My brother went to Howard, and we both just followed our goals.
Man, that's dope. Now, when did
Hmm.
you how did y'all choose your schools, and what was it about Morgan State that stood out for you?
No, I'm in full transparency. I wasn't always the best student,
Okay.
and for me, when it came time for to choose a college, I did not have a lot of options,
Mm,
and but it was something. My Morgan came along for me because, quite frankly, like my entire family is all HBCUs.
mm,
Everybody. My father graduated from North Carolina A&T. My mother graduated from Morgan. My brother and my sister and my sister's husband and my sister's husband's sister all went to Howard. So dinner time conversations be something else sometimes. But for me, Morgan was pretty much my only option. But once I got there, it was the only option I needed.
Wow.
Like from day one, I knew I was where I was supposed to be, and it's not just a saying. I'm so glad I went to Morgan State. That's I'll put it out there just like that.
Now, what was the program like when you was there? Because like I know when I was there, I was the last class where it was the communications department. Shout
Hmm.
out to Dwayne Wickham. He
Okay.
would the next year, 2013, 2014, change it to the School of Global Journalism, which you've been in there since, right? Have you gone through
I
this?
No, it's crazy. I have not.
You've
I
been to
need.
homecoming. You've been on campus.
I've been to homecoming. I've been on campus. I have yet to go to the new building. I need to. That needs to
Yeah,
change. That
you do,
absolutely
man.
needs to change. I'm a Banneker guy. I My whole entire Morgan Communications life was
Mhm.
in Banneker. Um,
Oof.
honest, it, yeah, yeah, yeah. There were some lean times, but
Mhm.
honestly, it they were definitely times that it made it easy to take for granted while you're there.
Yeah.
But once you get finished and you look back, you realize that one, you learned more than you thought you did, and that what you were learning was a lot more useful than you thought it would be at the time.
Mhm.
You know, there were times, we're looking at the equipment, and what it wasn't always the most state of the art equipment.
Mhm.
But once I got into the workforce, I would still see a lot of that equipment, and I had a knowledge of how to use it from being at Morgan State and being
John
in that studio.
Jonathan, I'm so glad you brought that up because
Mhm,
I speak to a lot of students who came in
mhm,
after I did, and they under the Wickham regime.
mhm,
Well, he's moved on to other positions since, but and I would say for me, I'm like, y'all don't realize how good y'all had it,
oh yeah.
and that's why I can appreciate you, paving the way for me to have what I had. But
Mhm,
and this is what we want to see. We want to see the school evolve. We want to see
yes,
evolution. You know,
yes.
and I didn't know it was so by me being a non-traditional student, right?
Mhm,
I had took time off and then getting back in school. I was just so happy to be back in class. The real Dwayne
mhm,
Allen and I, we met in a TV studio class, and he said, "I knew you was happy to be back in school because you had the book
mhm,
for every class." Because I had been in the workforce, struggling
mhm,
through retail, trying to get
yep,
promoted, not happening, and I said, "I want to get into the field of TV production," and because
mhm,
of that. I was able to grow and learn so much. So I'm glad you brought that up that, you found out when you went in the workforce, you was able to learn
mhm.
things. Um, what was so afterwards so was it right after Morgan State you went to Fox 45?
Pretty much. You talked about like paving the way, and
Mhm.
honestly, it this has been a cycle that has been this department, this school for so many years. You
Mhm.
know, um, it's always been, one of the strongest assets of the department has always been alumni.
Yeah.
So when I got to Morgan, there were OGs there for me who were at the local TV stations who came through Morgan. There were a group of Morganites who were just coming back to Baltimore from living in Los Angeles,
You said from Los
and
Angeles?
they had moved back and started to build their career here, but they went
Yep.
to LA, were working on different shows, and they came back to the area and were looking to just pass along that knowledge to that next group of Morganites, which was my group. So it was
Mhm.
brother by the name of Andre Tyler, Dexter Nixon had just come back from L.A. and
I
they were talking about the people that were in their group, like Sam Art Williams. That's the name people will always put out there. And Dorian Spicer. They were working with that group and that group was working with like shows like Martin, Fresh Prince of Bel Air,
Mhm.
um, Jamie Foxx show, things like that. So
Shout
they
out to
came back.
Dexter because I know
Oh
Dexter.
yeah.
He's there
Oh,
now.
Dexter's the OG. Dexter was my OG
Okay,
when
okay.
I got there. Dexter was my OG, and
Mm,
that's a good brother that I learned under when I was a student. Was then
mhm.
able to work with him professionally for a couple of years, and now to this day, we still talk. His oldest. I was working with him when his oldest son was born. I remember the day he left work when his wife went into labor.
Wow.
I remember that I was working with him. That's a good, like one of the best brothers you
Mhm.
know. But him, Andre Tyler, Lenny Rice, who I believe Lenny's at WMAR now.
Okay.
But those guys were just people you could always bounce off for information. When I wanted to get into editing, I could show them my tape and they could say, "Hey, you should do this. You should do this." When I wanted to get into shooting, I could show them my tape and they would give me advice when I go out to freelance. Hey, how
Mhm.
much should I ask for? What should I do? And they would always give me advice. And honestly, the only thing they ever asked for in return was to pay it forward. So when
Yeah,
I got
that's
into the when I got into profession when I finally landed on my feet professionally, I would then go back and then try to do the same thing.
mm,
You know, the department used to have, and I wish they bring it back. They used to have an alumni brunch during
yeah,
homecoming,
yeah.
and that used to be the dopest, man. We used to go and honestly, it would be years. It would just be, you would go. They tell you make a bunch of business cards and just go mingle, eat some breakfast, and just talk with the OGs.
Mhm.
And that's what they did. And it was like once once you graduated, it was like a rite of passage. Like, oh word, I'm out of Morgan now. I got my degree. Now I'm an OG.
Yep.
So I remember the first time, one of the first times I came back to the alumni brunch. That's where I met a friend of yours, friend of mine, Michael Ramos.
Mhm.
When she was still in school, she was getting ready to graduate, and I remember I helped her get one of her first jobs, and I just
Nice.
felt so accomplished. I felt like it was full circle. I was so proud of. I was just up there patting myself for the back. I don't know how much influence I might have had. All I did was give her a number to call, but I'm sitting over
Mhm.
there like, I'm helping the kids now. It's my
Yeah.
turn.
What up? It's your boy Blue Magic, owner of For Your Wear and one half of the Mixed Tag Show. Now, I know you've seen the announcement from some of your favorite podcasters and wrestlers. I've decided to expand my business to become a vendor so that people from the wrestling community have a better way to communicate with some of their favorites. So check out foryourwear.com and see if your favorite podcaster or wrestler has partnered up with me. If not, let them know that they should. Also, if you're looking for a vendor for your merchandise, reach out to me at Blue Magic Grind, spell how it sound on Twitter or Instagram, or at For Your Wear, FORURWEAR, on Twitter and on Instagram. Shout out to Brian H. Waters and Breaking Through Glass Ceilings. Their merchandise are already up, and they're one of the first one that's supported. So go support them. All right, peace.
It's a great feeling,
It
when you
is.
can
It
help people.
is.
And that was one of the things why reason why I did this podcast. I wanted to create it because I looked at, between the group chats and NABJ, and I said, man, I'm blessed to be
Yep.
connected with so many great people that I want to hear their stories and also give them an opportunity to inspire the next generation or
Yes.
inspire people. People may say, all right, well, Brian got a podcast. Let me check it out. And then they learn something from my guests. And,
Mhm.
it's always rewarding when I hear people say that this show has inspired them or even rejuvenated them. I've had people tell me
Mhm.
that. And so, it's a blessing. Um, how would you so you spent about 7 years in Baltimore,
Let's see.
right?
I went. Got to Morgan in '94.
Oh yeah, I should
Fall of
say post
'94.
college, but
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Got there in '94. Graduated '99. I stayed there till 2008. About 10 years
10
after
years.
graduation, I stayed down there.
Mm-hmm.
Loved
What
it.
and what led you back home?
Got a job.
Yeah.
Got offered.
Was that the goal, I should say? Was that the goal to get back home eventually?
Um, it was a goal, not necessarily the goal.
Mhm.
Opportunity. An opportunity presented itself to come back to Philly. That was my home. But honestly, it was like it. I would not have minded. I would not have mind staying in Baltimore. I liked living in Baltimore. Baltimore was good to me.
Okay.
It was never a point like I got to get out of this town or whatever. Just uh, a opportunity presented itself. I jumped on it and just packed up my family. We moved back.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, it's pretty cool, like you said, just to be able to I know for me, I was like, I wanna go home.
Uh,
I wanted to go home, but not only did you get a chance to come home, but, getting a chance to work in sports,
mhm.
NBC regional networks, but also getting to cover your teams.
That
How
was good.
cool was that?
It was very good.
Mhm.
It was very good. I started. I started well, at the time. It was Comcast Sportsnet. It later
Yeah.
became NBC Sports Philadelphia. I got there in October of 2008, so that
Mm.
was the start of the Phillies World Series run.
Okay.
That was the start of the playoffs. My very first day on the job, the Phillies had a game on the same day as the Eagles, and we did a live pregame show outside of what was then the Wachovia Center,
Mhm.
because in Philly all the arenas are right there in one area. It's Citizens Bank Park, it's the Lincoln Financial Field, and at the time it was Wachovia Center, which has now had like four names since then. But it's Wells Fargo now. But uh, from then on, I mean, it was just like that month covering the Phillies, and then they win the World Series. So at that point, that was like all the justification I need. I'm like, okay, I'm here. This is where I'm supposed to be. This was the right move. I just I'm here. I've been here a month, and I've just watched my baseball team win a championship. So that
Mhm.
was awesome. The job itself, the job itself wasn't didn't necessarily pan out. Unfortunately, and that's probably that's a hurdle that you face, because less than a year later, I was laid off from that job.
Mhm.
But I was still, I don't regret it. Don't regret moving. Don't regret the move, and I was still able to, really use what, if anything, what I had learned at Morgan to kind of tread water until the next opportunity presented itself.
Wow, that's
You
awesome.
know, I was able to, I was able to start my own company,
Mhm.
start doing more freelance work, start doing more, different things and other ventures until until a better opportunity presented itself.
Now, how rewarding has it been for you to be able to create your own company?
It's good. I mean, it's very rewarding because you know in the end, I think, and you can speak to this yourself. When you own your own product, when you have a level of ownership, there's a level of pride that you can take in that ownership when you know that the buck stops with you.
Mhm.
There, of course, I have a couple of I do a couple of podcasts. I have a radio station. I might not have the reach of like the Breakfast Club or Ricky Smiley or whatever. But in the end, my show is my show.
Right.
I own it. It's mine. It belongs to me, and that gives you a sense of justification. That gives you a sense of vindication. That it because that's a level of ownership that sometimes the more popular and more recognizable names just don't have. They might
Mhm.
get frustrated because they can't say what they want to say. I have a microphone. I have a voice. I say whatever I want. And
Mhm.
if if people feel it, people feel it. I have I have a radio station. I operate a radio station. I play the music I like. And in the end, I think I have a good enough ear, a good enough taste for music that people play. Oh man, you play good stuff. You do all right.
Yeah,
And for me, and honestly, and that's the justification. That's what makes it enjoyable. That's what for me, like that's what keeps you going.
absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely, man. Um, when you how do you like with music, right? Because it's one of those things where it's so versatile, especially nowadays. Like before, we depended on the radio to learn about people for the most part, and then obviously you had cable TV. Nowadays, it's I mean, unfortunately, in the hip hop world, and I don't listen to nowhere near as much hip hop as I used to, but
Mhm.
you hear about a rapper that died. I'm like, I didn't even know they was a rapper, but then they got like a
Mhm.
million followers. How do you stay updated? I know you play a lot of the stuff that I grew up on, and
Mhm.
like I said, you got me through a lot of mornings. But how do you like stay updated just to make sure know whether or not something you want to add to the rotation?
I mean, honestly, it comes across, and because I have an audience that is
Mm.
pretty much my age and older,
Okay.
I know that if there's someone I'm not familiar with, chances are they're not familiar with them either.
Hmm.
And I admit sometimes it will make you a little late on some people. Like I admit I it's not even probably I added Nipsey Hussle music after he passed away.
Hmm.
Like there was some time like, hey, let me read up on this guy and let me listen to some songs. I'm like, oh, this man made he made a couple good couple good records. But honestly, the truth of the matter is there's a lot of people in my audience who weren't familiar with him.
Right.
And for me, it's like I try to play good music. So if it's something that I feel like my audience would listen to, then we'll play
Hmm.
it. Because we're not beholden to a lot of sponsors or record labels or whatever, you know, we'll pretty much play whatever you ask for.
Right.
Somebody hits us up and say, "Hey, I want to play." And sometimes you gotta draw the line.
That's true.
You gotta draw a line sometimes. But for the most part, hits me up and says, "Hey, can you play this?" You know, I don't have the audience yet to just be like, "Nah, I ain't playing that."
Hmm.
Unless it's just really corny, some really whack. But for the most part, I'll play it, and if it's good, I'll keep it in the rotation. If it's not, then you won't hear it again.
Nah, but yeah, the music is good, man. Like I said, I definitely appreciate it. As somebody
Hey,
who.
yeah, it's music for music lovers.
Hmm.
I was I came up on late '80s, all the '90s. '90s
Hmm.
is my wheelhouse.
Yeah.
But then, early 2000s, 2010s, that's pretty, that's where I was at. And I I would hear people have dabbled in the whole throwback genre before, but when I was talking to them, like looking for advice on how to build the playlist and how to build the sound, they would always say, when it comes to these stations and especially the ones run by big corporate conglomerates, they would pigeonhole them. They would say, "Hey, you can
Hmm.
only do from this time period." And for
Yeah.
me, like, and you could attest to this. You might have you might have a core genre or a core time that you like, but you still like other things. Like you can like the '90s, you could live in the '90s and say, "Hey, '90s was my music," but there was still a lot of music in the '80s that you like.
Yep.
And there are a lot of music in the 2000s. It's like, yes, you can like, you can like your Biggie, you can like your Pac, you can like Jay-Z and Nas, but you also like Big Daddy Kane. You also
Hmm.
like Run DMC. You also like Houdini. You know, you could play those and you can mix those in and still be good. And you can play Houdini, you can play Run DMC, you can play Big Daddy Kane, but know what? You can also play Dipset. You know, people
Yep.
won't mind if you slide one or two Soldier Boy records in there. Not a lot, but you know, one or two, slide some Soldier Boy up in there. You know, you can like Jay-Z, you can like Nas, but you can also throw a Drake record in there every now and then. You know, one or two Future records every now and then. It can happen. But it was like, but I there was a lot of stuff that, like, for me, when it came time, I wanted to give a voice and I wanted to provide an outlet for music that I enjoyed, that I felt like didn't get enough shine, didn't get enough attention. Like,
Right.
always been a Christian hip hop fan. That's, you know,
Mhm.
that's a lie. I haven't always been a Christian hip hop fan, but you know, I became a Christian hip hop fan, and I felt like at the time there wasn't enough outlets for it. Like, you saw the rise of gospel FM radio,
Mhm.
and you liked it and you appreciate it. You know, you like your Kurt Franklin, you like your Fred Hammond, you know, you like your James Fortune, but it's like they're not playing enough Lecrae, they're not playing enough Triple E. You know,
Mhm.
and even then, you know, it's like there's more, and you knew there was more to Christian hip hop than just Reach Records. You know, you
Right.
want to play a little, you want to play some Lamp Mode. You know, you want to play some Cross Movement. You know, and I was sitting up there, and I'm like, okay, my radio station has a Christian hip hop show. You know,
Mhm.
we play Christian hip hop when we do gospel music. You gonna hear Christian hip hop in the gospel music. You know, you gonna, like, you listen to the gospel music on Sundays. There's gonna be, you know, early Andy Mineo. You know,
Mm.
like when he was
Yeah.
See Light, Ambassador, and the Truth, and things like that. You know, you gonna
Mm.
hear that.
Yeah. But, yeah, big bro, before we get you out of here, I
Oh,
gotta ask
okay.
you the
I know
question.
I'm taking all your time, man. I'm enjoying
Oh, no, you
this.
good. Okay, okay,
You
but
know,
you
I'm basking in this. I got nowhere to go, man. Look,
man, definitely, definitely
it's like this.
appreciate that.
Look, I'm like you.
Mhm.
I ask the questions. I'm over here. I'm usually on the other side of the
I
interview,
know.
so I'm enjoy it. I'm I'm, I'm enjoying this moment while I have it.
Oh, trust me, it's gonna be more because I gotta get you on for some wrestling talk too. So
Okay.
you know
Oh,
you coming
yes,
over
yes.
to the
We got
realm too. Yeah,
WrestleMania coming up, and you go, and you know it's in Philly. Was it, next?
next
Is it
year.
next
Uh
year?
huh.
So, you know, look, you gonna come by the crib, man. You gonna come by. We gonna break bread or something.
Oh, definitely, definitely.
All right.
I gotta ask you this question. When you look
What's up?
back at your career, when
Yes.
did you break through the glass ceiling? When was the moment where you realized you was? I know you're not arrogant, but what was the moment you realized I'm pretty good at this?
Um. Goodness. I guess there were a couple of times, because in everything that you do, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and some when you operate, when you operate on a smaller scale, but you try to be consistent with that, when people notice what you're doing. You know, when it came to radio, it was when established artists started reaching out to me to break their music.
Nice.
You know, it was when when artists I was listening to, when people were say, "Hey, I got this record. Can you get this on for me?" And I'm like, "Are you kidding me? I used to play your CDs, or I shouldn't even say I used to. I play your CDs in my car, or MP3s, whatever. I listen to your music in your car. I would
Mm.
give you my $17 to listen to your music, and now you're giving me a record to play on my radio station." So for them, it was that. Also, you know, when it came to doing podcasts, um, you know, I started on my own because I was trying to jumpstart my career, and you know, I was working at the time. I was working at Comcast Sportsnet, but I knew that I had to operate outside of them. But when
Mm-hmm.
people from who were working there wanted to be on my podcast, And they were
Yeah.
saying, hey, like I think for me, the formula had always been, I would reach out to like the fan sites and things like that, people on social media or whatever, and ask them did they want to be on as guests. And then I
Yeah.
was going behind the scenes. I was asking the writers. I was asking the producers, did they want to come on the show? Because I knew, the talent was on another level. And then
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people who were talented, a lot of on air people were watching me operate. And then they come up to me like, hey, man, I see your podcast. How come you haven't asked me to come on? And I was shocked.
Yeah.
So it's like once I started doing that, once I had a couple former athletes on, couple former Eagles have come on my show, people who I've cheered for, people who I've liked. So for me, that was that glass ceiling, and then just keep it, as you continue to work, as you continue to grind. I have been fortunate in the fact that I've pretty much been feeding my family off TV money now for almost 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
It's so like just to be able to continue to, even when you're down, be able to navigate a way back up. That's breaking a glass ceiling for me, knowing that I've been down, but I've always gotten back up. There's always been a way to get back up. So like for me, that's a glass ceiling in itself, because I've seen people fall down and not get back up. I've seen people be chased away from this industry, be chased away from this business. So for me, the fact that I haven't had to go anywhere, that's the
Yeah.
blessing, and that's the glass ceiling I broke through.
Man, look, like I said earlier, man, I appreciate you
Thank
obviously
you,
for
man.
coming on, but I
Thank
definitely
you.
appreciate, your support. You're doing what you want to do. You're paying it
Mhm.
forward, man. And, your family is blessed to have you. A
I'm
good
gonna make sure
brother.
they see that. I'm gonna sit them all down and make sure they see that part.
and, and I'm
In
gonna put
fact,
it like this. Look,
say that again.
yeah, yeah, your family is truly, truly blessed to have you. The podcast is brought to you by For Your Wear and Symphony of the Balloons,
Mhm.
but you didn't pay me to say what I just said. Like I said, I just appreciate, everything
Thank you, brother.
that you've done. I appreciate, and it's fun watching you. I see how proud of you are of your children,
Mhm.
and just to see that, and it's amazing, man. And we always beat down other people. We talked about your quarterback. Um, the brother OJ Spivey was on a few weeks
Yes.
ago,
Yes.
and he was saying how being in the locker room and that representation, how important it is, because there's always the same story. The sexy story is what my quarterback had come from a single mother, right?
Mhm.
Lamar Jackson, because
Yep.
he gonna resign. He gonna resign. But I'll say this: if he don't, I'm gone. I'm done. My Ravens fandom ends. But
Oh, wow. Okay.
that's the sexy stories, right?
Yeah.
But we need to showcase the positive black men stories as well. And like I said, I'm proud to be connected to you. Love you, bro, and I appreciate everything you do,
Appreciate you,
man.
man. Thank you, man. And because the stories are out there. Now, don't let
Mm-hmm.
people tell you otherwise.
Yeah,
It's like, you know, I, I, I don't believe that there are a shortage of good, positive black men. There might be a shortage of spotlight,
there you
shortage
go.
of people showing them, but they're out there. We're out there,
Mm-hmm.
and so just don't, if I may quote the song, don't believe the hype.
There you
We're
go.
out there all, and it's like I'm not. Sometimes I don't necessarily call myself or think of myself as a good black father. I'm just a father,
Mm-hmm.
and honestly, all I've ever done is do what my dad did.
Yeah.
I came from a good father. My
Likewise.
father came from a good father, and I
Mm-hmm.
watched both of them. You know, I watched both of them over the years. My father's still there. So like I still watch him.
Amazing.
My
Me too.
so all I'm trying to do is be the man that my father was, and all he ever did was try to be be the man his father was. So we out
And
here. It's not
I'm
just
glad you
going out
brought that up. It's that's how it's amazing, because it's supposed to be generations. It's supposed to be
there.
like that. My my dad's father was gone by the time I was born. He died in December to me being born that August. My mother's father was here for the first 4.5 years of my life, but he was a great father, you know. And now I try to do the same thing with my children, you know, because I look at it as they're blessings. They didn't ask to be here, and you know, I enjoy it. So, you know, but man, let the people know where they can find you for those who listening and not watching.
Man, well, okay, well, look, man. One, you can find me every weekday, 2 to 6 on PhillyGoFlow.com. It's the grown folks groove. If you like good throwback music, I got you. Check me out 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. on the PM workflow. That's Monday through Friday. I play good music. PhillyGoFlow.com. You can follow them Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at PhillyGoFlow. You can also check me out with my man Mike Jones on the Jonesy and Brown Show. We'll talk Philly sports. You know, we might talk some sports from your town, wherever you at. Just let us know, and you know, if something interesting going on, we'll talk about it. But that's Jonesy and Brown, 3 words, one long title. Jonesy and Brown. That's at bitwsports.com. That's the podcast. And if you're on Twitter, check me out, JLB from DVM. I'm out here. I'm in these streets.
He outside, Joe.
I'm outside. I stay outside. It's cold outside. Got the hoodie on because I stay outside. So, you know, if you're on Twitter, you say, hey, man, I heard you on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, and I like what you said. Hit me up. Or if you want to say, hey, man, I heard you on Breaking Through Glass Ceilings, and I thought everything you said was some crap, man. Hit me up. We'll talk about it.
You heard what he said. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure y'all follow Jonathan. And remember, do not let anyone place a ceiling above your success. So long, everybody.
Peace, y'all.
Thank you for listening to the podcast, ladies and gentlemen. You can support this podcast by going on foryourwear.com. Go to personalities and see Brian H. Waters. There you can get Breaking Through Glass Ceilings t-shirt or a hoodie, as well as a No Ceilings Above Success t-shirt. Go to foryourwear.com. Make sure you also check out some of the other podcasters and professional wrestlers as well.